Hey, good evening and welcome to the channel, everybody. By the time this comes out, I think it's going to be Sunday, but I'm filming it quickly on Saturday. I meant to get a video out much earlier because I usually do one the moment I come home from a card show. I usually try and get it out that evening. So I went to the Chicago Sports Spectacular again, which is our big regional card show that's held twice a year. It's held in November and it's held in March. Nicely like straddling the National for this year and the next year as well. So there's been like 3 really big card shows in Chicago. Some of the same dealers that you see at the National are actually at the card show we have this weekend. As far as like vintage dealers go, like obviously the big corporate stuff isn't really there, although PSA was there and Beckett was at the show as well. But I went on Friday, so today is Saturday. I didn't get a chance to go out to the show on Saturday, and I'll plan to go on Sunday. We have family coming into town, so we've been busy kind of just cleaning and doing some things around the house, and I've been doing some stuff outside as I'm taking advantage of like the weather still being fairly nice and kind of getting some gardening done for the spring, which is also one of my hobbies. So gardening, running, baseball cards. I definitely have a lot of things that interest me. But anyway, so I wanted to share with you some things that I've gotten recently. I had some things that came in. One thing that came in the mail today, which I did want to wait till that came to be able to do the video, so I knew I was going to try and at least wait until this evening, if not tomorrow morning, to do a video. But I also wanted to show you what I got at the show. But I wanted to just start by saying I got to the show yesterday as it opened. I didn't do the VIP entry, but I did the regular general admission, which came in at 3:30, and met up with my friend Joe, who's met at the last couple card shows through Jason. Everyday Card Collector. Jason was not at the show on Friday, but I guess he was there today with the guys. I just couldn't go today. And then also Doug at JoeWoodCollector actually came up for the show, which was fantastic. So we had a chance to, I met him at the National just really briefly, but we didn't have a chance to really talk too much. This time we were able to kind of hang out for the whole show. So my strategy at the show kind of going in is I had really 2 cards that were in mind, even though I was like looking for 4 different cards that I needed from the Diamond Star set. So I came into it looking for, primarily I was trying to get Mel Ott, Jimmie Foxx, and or Lefty Grove, and potentially Red Ruffing, depending on how kind of things panned out. So I spent the time, really the first hour of the show, just kind of going around quickly to tables. And this is a fairly large show, so by no means did I see everything, but what happens when you're like really laser focused on a couple different cards, or even just one card, you go to a table and you don't see anything. So you quickly move away, even though there might be things that would take my interest if I just was completely a free agent and I was like looking for anything. But I was able to really kind of like focus my search. So I was able to go around the room and see copies of the cards that I was looking to purchase. Saw several different copies of the Mel Ott and also the Jimmie Foxx at the show. What I found out, there was a lot of them were mid-grade, so it was going to be like a little bit more, it was going to be like all my budget if I got just one of them. So I kind of kept looking, and I was able to come across some, at least some cards that I thought really fit my collection, even if they might be lower grade. I thought the quality was really good for what the grades were on the cards. So I kind of went around the room, did my homework, and then I started kind of going in and trying to make offers on cards. I was very excited to get 2 of the 3. I did have one offer that fell through, but let me show you the cards that I got, and we'll talk about the card that fell through and the 2 that are remaining for the set for the near future, and when I anticipate potentially like finishing this wonderful project that I'm like looking at right now in the corner of my eye over here. But let's turn the camera around and let me share with you what I was able to pick up at the show. All right, camera's turned around, so let me get started. I had a few extra dollars left at the end of the show, so I actually went over to Billy Chappell's table and picked up a couple 53 Bowmans I needed for my set. I started with him first to see if he had the Diamond Stars that I needed, and it just didn't work out this time. He actually didn't have a lot, which was kind of the first time I think I've ever gone to his table and saw that he didn't have too many, so he must be having a hard time being able to restock these things as he's going from one show to the other. I have noticed a little bit more of an uptick in the prices on these cards since I started putting this set together, and especially since I started talking about it more in the last year or so on YouTube. So I think it's just kind of going with this market in general. It seems like things are kind of still going up. And for whatever reason, this set seems to be one that's caught a lot of people's eyes. But The 53 Bowman. So I still need probably, oh god, about a fourth of the set, just under the fourth of the set. I haven't really been working on it this year, so as the Diamond Stars wind down, I'm going to be starting to pick up with the Bowman next year. I don't know, we'll see. Maybe I can finish that next year, or at least get darn close to it. But the Diamond Stars are the focus. But here's the two that I picked up. I got White Sox manager Paul Richards. Beautiful picture there. And Harry Berg. These are cards number 39 and 38 in the set. So I'll put those away shortly. All right, so I mentioned I had one card that came in the mail today. It was one I won at auction last week. It was one I had been targeting, and I've been looking at several copies of these, and you know, it was hard to find the one that was the right fit for me, because this was a common card in the Diamond Star set that actually went for a lot because of the team he played for and the player and manager, or the player coach he was, which was Frank Crosetti. Frank Crosetti actually has more World Series rings than any other player coach in Major League Baseball history, because he spanned the era of like the 30s, and he played with the early 40s teams of the Yankees, and then moved into a player coach, and then was just a coach with the team all the way through the 1960s. So he was able to get World Series rings from the time of Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig all the way to the time of Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris. What a amazing kind of career Frank Crosetti kind of had. All-time Yankee legend there, even though he's a team legend and obviously not an all-time great, although he did appear in a couple All-Star games during his time. There he is, Frank Crosetti. I just love that card, the texture to it. I always thought that it was pretty, a card that really gravitated towards me whenever I saw that image. When I first saw it as I was putting the set together, I thought it was one of the more interesting cards in the set, and I just love it. So yesterday at the show, the first one that I targeted, I was able to find a dealer who had a stack of cards of this player, and he said the cards are stacked by player, not by set. So I'm like, oh, do you have potentially this card in there? And he did, and we negotiated a price. So he had a price that I felt was too high for the card and the condition and grade it was. So I did show some examples that were actually graded higher, because he was open to this. I did ask, would you mind looking at any comps of recent sales? And he said, yeah. So like, okay, well, we looked at some of the recent sales on eBay, and some of the cards were graded higher that were going for about the price that he wanted. We didn't sign any in this condition, or at least the grade specifically, so it wasn't an easy comparison, but I threw an offer out there, and at first he thought it was a little too low, but then as we talked a little bit further, he was like, you're working on a set, right? I'm like, yeah, I just need 4 more cards. This is one of the 4 I need. And, you know, I'm looking for it at the show and potentially the mail lot too. And so he's like, this is for your set. I know you're not going to flip it. I think I'm just going to do this deal. And, you know, it doesn't hurt to tell a dealer that. You know, if you're really working on a project, sometimes they can kind of see the passion. A lot of those guys started as collectors too. And he thought he had a little bit of room in this card to even make a little bit on it, even at the price that I offered. And so it was none other than multiple MVP, Hall of Fame, first baseman / catcher, and guy with over 500 home runs. When he retired, he was second all-time in home runs, only to Babe Ruth. That is none other than XX, Jimmie Foxx, pictured here, catching. So it's kind of an interesting image because he wasn't catching a lot by this point in his career, but he was called into duty when Mickey Cochran was sold to the Detroit Tigers, and they needed more help behind the plate, so he was playing first base and also catcher, and it talks a little bit about that on the back of the card too. So at this point in his career, he was doing a little bit of both, and there he is, pictured here within the Diamond Star set. That's one of the things that people like to point out about this card is like, oh, he's catching. So many of the other cards like show him hitting and things like that from this era, but here he is catching. It's a pretty interesting card, I think, and what I really like, obviously, about this one was the condition that it looks like in a 1.5. There is a little bit of paper loss all the way up in this corner. You can maybe see it with the naked eye, but we couldn't really see it very easily just yesterday, so I had to bring out a loop and I found it. I wouldn't know that it's there unless I was looking, but now I know it's there. I know it's there. And there's like maybe a small little crease that kind of goes horizontally through the middle. It's not a massive one. In the right angle, you can't even see it, which is like perfect. Everything else about the card is wonderful. It's got wonderful registration. No, it's not the most centered card in the world, but who cares? It's from the 1930s. And it was at a price where I was able to really, strike in the moment, pick up the card, knock off one of the big ones off the list, and then kind of move on to potentially going after a Mel Ott. As I mentioned, the Mel Otts that I found were all like 4s and above. And I was trying to go into negotiation with one dealer on one card, who he actually was consigning it specifically. So we kind of came to terms potentially on a price based on what the consigner was willing to do. But it was one of those situations where I was kind of out of cash. I had enough cash for what I wanted to pay, but once we negotiated, I'd have to like charge part of it. And for whatever reason, like he had a hard time like getting his little credit card machine working properly. And then it said my card wasn't like registering on there for some reason. The card's fine. I've been using it forever. But so it fell through kind of for those reasons, for technical reasons. There wasn't much he could do about it because he couldn't run my card. And you know what? By that point, it's the only card I use for shows. And so I don't use my other cards for these things. I like to keep these finances separate. So I just kind of said, okay, not today. This is not the show where I'm going to get Mel Ott. And you know what? That's okay. I think I'll probably target the March show to be able to get the Mel Ott card. And so that left me down really just with red ruffing. And I found one other graded red ruffing, but it was a very high grade on there. So it was maybe more than I wanted to pay for a red ruffing card. But I did see one graded copy of Lefty Grove. It was the only one I saw on the show. And it was a 1934 copy, which was kind of cool because it was the first year of the set. And it's the #1 card in the set. And here he is, pitching with his very first year with the Boston Red Sox, even though he just finished his career with the A's. And he was sold over to Boston. Obviously, Jimmie Foxx followed him later. But here he is in 1934, the #1 card in the set. It is nowhere near a beauty, but for me, it is perfect. Goes really well with the set. I consider Lefty Grove being one of the big cards in the set. I would probably say, like, in my personal opinion, the big 5 cards, that excluding the high numbers, the big 5 cards in the set are Hank Greenberg, Roger Hornsby, Lefty Grove, Jimmie Foxx, and Mel Ott. And so now I'm down just to Mel Ott. I couldn't be more thrilled. I'm pretty confident I'll be able to pick up the red ruffing between now and March, which will just leave me with going to the show and hoping there is a good copy of the Mel Ott there, and that I have the right amount of cash to be able to strike on it in the moment. And yeah, that would finish my Diamond Star set. So I'm really excited to put these in the case now. And I can kind of show you how the cases are kind of looking too, because I only have 2 spots that are open. One case is now completed. So I can kind of just do a quick little rundown again and like piece all this video together. So let me stop the camera, get the cases open, and I'll put them in there. All right, I apologize for the glare. It's pretty unavoidable. As the last time I did it, it's gonna look about the same, but there he is, Lefty Grove. This is the cabinet's now complete. So I'll point out some of the Hall of Famers we go through. We got Grove, Al Simmons, Rabbit Moranville, go across here. Then we have Mickey Cochran. Finish with Boyd Mahaffey. Go down to the second row here. Mahaffey again, it's a different year. And we got Bill Dickey, Bill Terry, Lloyd Wayner, Frankie Frisch, Chick Haffey. And we go to the last one on that row. Go down here. That's where the glare is really bad. Sorry about that. Pepper Martin there. High Trainer, Al Lopez. And Rolf's the last one there. Here we go. Heine Manouche, Kai Kyler, Sam Rice, Earl Averill, Ernie Lombardi. Here we go. The final row here. Here we go. We got Carl Hubble, Ted Lyons, Roger Hornsby. Rick Farrell's the last one on this one. All right, let me go to the next cabinet. Now, this is the one where I still need 2 cards. So that is where the Mel Ott will go eventually. Here in the top row, we got the Hank Greenberg. Move down to the next row, got Jim Bottomley. Stonewall Travis Jackson. Jimmie Foxx, the one I just got. Ducky Medwick. Next row. Tony Lazzari. Charles Geringer. Go down to the next one. Got the Paul Wainer I got not too long ago here, just last month. There's Crosetti again. The final row, final group of cards. We've got Bucky Harris. And then we have Luke Appling and Lou Riggs, who runs out the set. All right, thanks guys. I'll be back soon.